Hello and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host, and today I return with part 3 of my special series on digital marketing for dispute resolution professionals. And before we get started today, I just want to first say thank you so much. So many of you have reached out to me to let me know that you're enjoying this series and you're finding it really helpful to have the process explained, in this level of detail. So thank you so much. I love hearing from you. And if what I'm doing is helpful to you, let me know because then I'll keep doing it. And if there's something else you'd like to hear about, let me know that too, because I do a podcast every week. I can do one on a topic that you're looking for. So this is part 3 of an ongoing series on digital marketing for dispute resolution professionals. If you have not listened or watched parts 1 and 2, part 1 was knowing your brand, creating your brand, and part 2 was creating your digital marketing strategy. So really 2 very important parts of attacking digital marketing. You do not want, it's just like you don't jump into the deep end of a pool before you know how to swim. You learn some strokes, you learn how to dog paddle first. You need to have a plan, just like with anything, and then you execute. So knowing your brand, creating your strategy, really important. I will have links to the first 2 parts in the show notes for this section. I highly recommend listening or watching first. You can listen on the podcast on all podcast channels or watch it on the Learn to Mediate Online YouTube channel. And you can just go to learntomediateonline.com to get those. But if you're ready, we're going to dive into actually implementing that marketing plan. So you've got the brand, you've got the strategy. We're going to start applying digital marketing techniques. So there's a lot to talk about here. And believe it or not, techniques is a section that we're going to break into a couple of different sections as well, because there are so many potential techniques. And I want to make sure that I give you a layered understanding of each technique so that you can decide what works best for your particular digital marketing strategy. So for those of you who are watching, you see my plate of spaghetti sliding down the wall. And that goes back to my illusion of, you are going to throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall before you see what sticks. The 9 potential techniques for digital marketing that I'm going to cover in this series are all strings of spaghetti. They're going to go up on the wall. And when you've had a chance to try the ones that you feel you want to try, and you have a chance to remember how important this is from strategy and from branding, check and see how they're doing, whether they're working or not. Then you will know how to continue with your marketing strategy and which of techniques you want to continue to apply. Because at the end of the day, it is all about ROI, which is return on investment. And it does not matter whether that investment is monetary, such as paid advertising, or if it is your effort, your time that has a cost associated with it as well. So what we want to be looking for is, what are you putting out there? What is the cost, both time and money wise, to putting it out? And what return are you getting for that investment? Now, the 9 potential techniques are SEO, search engine optimization, probably one of the most important, on-page SEO audits, user experience, paid search ads. Some of you may choose to completely ignore that one. Display advertising, another one that you may not want to apply, but you may if you find that the ROI is worth it. Sponsored social posts, email marketing can also be incredibly effective. Native advertising, and a really important one that we often forget, customer advocacy marketing. Our clients advocating for us. That is a really huge driver in digital marketing, and we'll see how to implement that. But today, before we get started on the actual techniques, I want to just make you aware of something they call the marketing flywheel. And again, if you're watching the video, you can see this, but I'll describe it. It's a circle that has arrows going all the way around the circle, and they start with attract, arrow to engage, arrow to delight, and then back to attract. And it's a constant flywheel of marketing. And the key here is that we are talking about turning your audience, the people who are getting the benefit of your digital marketing, we want to attract them. Once we've attracted them, once we've gotten their, hey, you attention, we want to engage them. We want them to say, oh, I wonder what's here. Let's look a little more. And then once they've been engaged and they look a little more, I love this. According to the flywheel, we want to delight them. But we want to bring them something positive that then continues to attract them, engage them, and delight them so that we can move them into our flywheel. And as they are delighted, the theory would be that they will help you attract, engage, and delight even more, and on and on. So the flywheel is a self-perpetuating process. It starts with attracting, and that is your digital marketing. So we are, in this particular episode, going to start with SEO. And that will be the only technique we're going to talk about in this particular episode because it is so important and often misunderstood. So I'm going to try and dive in for you as much as I can in a podcast episode so that you have a good, nuanced, layered understanding. And as always, I want to give you some tips of how you can actually start implementing SEO techniques into your digital marketing strategy and plan and implementation. So search engine optimization is exactly what we might think that is. When people are searching terms, so, I'm a divorce attorney. What do people search for when they're getting divorced? Divorce. That might be a keyword, right? So there's much more to it. I'm just giving you a high level understanding. But when somebody decides they want to get divorced and they're wondering what to do, they might sit down and search, how do I get divorced? How do I get divorced in New York? How do I get divorced with kids? There's all these different terms that they might be interested in. Now, something very important to understand, and I don't think this is going to surprise any of you listening or watching, Google, the behemoth of Google, accounts for over 90% of search engine activity on desktops. Over 90%. Everybody's Googling. We, in fact, use Google as a term now, right? We Google this, Google that, go Google it. So that is a key factor because Google has constantly and is constantly tweaking their algorithm for what will help you rank higher in SEO on Google. And we'll talk about a few different ways that you can figure out what's trending for your particular industry right now and start using that information. So first off, how do search engines such as Google is a search engine, how do they rank websites? What are they looking for so that when someone puts in divorce, my website's going to show up near the top of the list that comes up? So it's all about two things. Relevancy. Your website needs to be relevant to that search. So factors like topic and keywords, which we'll talk about a little bit more, those are all important. And those are called on-page SEO. So things that directly link to your website. So again, for my divorce mediation practice, I'm going to have the word divorce and mediation all over that website because those are the two of the major keywords. And I'm going to have topics on divorce. I'm going to have topics on mediation. I'm going to have topics on divorce mediation because that's going to bring my relevancy on that topic to the forefront, my on-page SEO. There's also the issue of your being an authority, meaning your website's popularity. And those are called backlinks. That will be where people are linking to your website because you've got the answers. So, for example, today, actually yesterday, I have a blog post that went up on the Decomply app website. It's an app that I love. For those of you who listen to my divorce podcast, you know I've done a podcast episode on it. But they have started a new page of experts, and I've done a blog for them. That blog goes out. The blog links to my podcast website, to my divorce mediation website, and to my Learn to Mediate online website. So I have these backlinks from somebody else's website that lead to my website. It's also on a page where I'm called an expert and an authority. So your relevancy for on-page SEO as well as backlinks on other pages are keys to being ranked high by search engines. Now, website SEO is critically important. So as you are looking to perhaps create your website or revamp your website, here are a few things with respect to SEO you need to keep in mind. So two key factors with the website itself, its functionality. It needs to be well built. It needs to have links that work. It needs to have information on it that takes people where it says it's going to go, where the images are properly sized, where the entire site flows and is an easy interface for the users. One of the things that people absolutely hate is going to a website and a link doesn't work. It takes you to the wrong place. There's broken links or information. You want to make sure your website is well built and easy to navigate for people. Drop down menus are fabulous. Interactive links, things like where they can link to your social media, link to your different avenues, to your blog, to other appearances that you've had on other people's podcasts or articles that you've been featured in. All of that, you want to make sure it works. And critically, it has to be optimized for mobile. So for those watching, you're going to see on the screen, I have a website, then I have it on a tablet, and then they are showing that same website on a smartphone. Very important because the vast majority of searching has moved to our phones, right? We have them with us at all times. And when we want to know information, we have become the world of instant gratification. The other day, my husband said something about, I wonder what the, etymology of that term was. Bada boom, bada bing. He put it into the Google search on his phone, and we now know. I can't remember. I think it was kick the bucket. Right? We know where kick the bucket came from, that phrase. So you have to make sure that your website is optimized for mobile. That is where people are looking. For those of you who have taken my do it yourself, build your own website course, the downloadable course at Learn to Mediate online on my Teachable platform, you know that I use GoDaddy to build all my websites. I have 6 or 7 websites going right now. I built them all myself. I do it with GoDaddy. I can constantly go into the back end and keep them up to date, fix things, add things, change things, delete things. I'm a huge fan of being the master of your own domain, literally. But the other thing that I love about GoDaddy's website builder is it automatically optimizes for mobile. Very important. Now, beyond just the functionality of your website, you also need to make sure that the content on your website is relevant. It needs to be relevant to your particular topic, to what your searchers, those who find you, are looking for. You want it to be easy to read, credible, honest, and accurate. All exceedingly important. And this comes down to the fact that in the world that we live in today, trust is a very difficult thing to build. We do not live, unfortunately, in a society that automatically trusts everything, right? People have been disappointed too many times. And so they are looking for credible, honest, and accurate. critically important. You want to set yourself up as the voice that you can trust. In fact, that's my tagline. Divorce advice from the voice you can trust is my tagline for my divorce podcast. It's important because people want to know that they can trust what you are telling them. So be considering this as you are creating content that's relevant, easy to read, and trustworthy for your website. That is key to website SEO. Now, keywords. You've all heard the phrase, right? Keyword, how to do SEO keyword research. And this is where we're going to end for today, but I want to spend some time on this because this is a critical part of properly putting content on your website, right? If you're going to create content that is going to go on your website, you want it to attract the keywords when people are doing keyword searches, right? Keywords are the phrases or the terms they put into the search bar. So start with a broad expanse of topics that are trending or of note in your field of expertise or your area of practice. Again, I'm going to use divorce just because that happens to be my particular area of expertise. So as an example, and many of you might be able to use this. We are still in the COVID era as we are here today, right? So keyword that is trending and has been trending for months and months is COVID. But think about that. So COVID might be a topic that you would have as a trending topic of interest in your field. When you're thinking of these topics, little hint, use those client personas that you created in your strategy portion, creating your digital marketing strategy, those client personas of who you're trying to attract, right? Because each one of those might have different topics of interest or different trending topics. And think about specifically for each one of them, things that that particular persona is going to be interested in. So, and do that, I suggest doing this on a spreadsheet, doing it on a piece of paper. You all know, I believe at times in our lives, we have to put pen to paper. If you want to put fingers to keyboard, that's fine as well. But it really helps to write this down in some fashion. And I would say write all of these topics, have buckets or have tranches where it's, persona 1, persona 2, persona 3, however many personas you created, topics for each of them. Some of them may overlap, certainly. And then under those topics, you're now going to write down the main words that are relevant to each. Right? So what are the main words that are relevant to each? And you're still going to be thinking of what your client would search, right? Words that they would be using. One of my big points when I present on these topics is, especially when I talk to my lawyer friends or my friends in certain specific industries who tend to start using industry terms. So for my family law attorneys out there, dissolution of marriage, retainer, interrogatories, discovery. We love throwing out all our legal phrases. Heck, we spent years in school learning them, right? Those aren't the words that the general population uses when they are going to do research. They research divorce, not dissolution of marriage. So as you are looking for these topical keywords, think about words that your average person or your target persona is going to use for them. And let's think about COVID. I'm going to go back to why in divorce people might be searching for COVID. Sorry. They might be looking for information on how to get a matter heard in court during COVID, how to get divorced during COVID, how to change your parenting plan during COVID, how to modify your child support during COVID. Those all might be terms or reasons why they, or topics that are relevant to the COVID topic for divorcing people or people who are caught up in family law issues. Then as you have all of those keywords, I'm going to call them. That's what they call them in digital marketing. Once you have those keywords, consider why the user's searching for that term, right? So we talked about modifying child support during COVID. They're looking for that because maybe their income's gone down. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe there are topics that are relevant and you're looking to why they might be researching that. A topic that I just heard about the other day from one of my family law colleagues was, can I get the $1,400 stimulus monies that my ex-spouse received because they're behind on child support? Right? So that attorney was actually doing a blog post about that to get it on his website. SEO gold. Gold, I tell you, people. I applaud that effort, right? That's a topic that's going to be a hot topic. It's of the moment. It's great content. Giving that answer is something that people are going to want. You can come up with a great title for it. I mean, that's fantastic. In fact, if you're out there thinking about a blog post, think of a way you can get the stimulus into your topics. Can you do a blog post that in some way pulls COVID or stimulus funds or, anything of that nature into a blog post for you now? That's going to be hot. So another way to figure out why the user might be searching for that term or how it's being used is to do a Google search yourself and see what results come up. Because you know what that tells you? That tells you who's successfully using SEO. If I Google how to get a divorce in New York and it brings up, a page of results, those top 10 are killing it. They're doing it right. Look and see what they're doing. Why reinvent the wheel? Look and see what they're doing well. There are also SEO tools. They're listed here on the screen. They're Uber Suggest, SEM Rush, and Ahrefs, Ahrefs, references, but Ahrefs. I'll put links to all of these in the show notes, and those can help you to find keywords. What you want to do as you start to identify your topics and the keywords for those topics and the languaging around those topics is you now want to create content on your website that utilizes that. And that may be blog posts, it may be social media posts, it may be speaking engagements and titles, it may be podcast episodes with titles, it may be an actual page of content, it may be FAQs on your website. Add these into the FAQs. So we are going to talk more about how to implement this next week. When we go on further into the potential techniques that you might use in your digital marketing process. But let's start with SEO. So before we get to next week's episode, please sit down and do some SEO keyword research for your own website and be ready to move forward because we're going to keep you going on your digital marketing journey. I'll see you next week.